Hey guys, it's Dom. For today's video, we're going to go over my least favorite books of 2018. So for this video, I gathered up 8 books like I usually do. I kind of matched the end of the year, so 8 for 2018. Last year I did 7 for 2017, blah blah blah. Usually I keep my least favorite books from 1 to 2.5 stars, and it worked out great this year. Like, I had exactly 8 when you put all those books combined. Yeah, we're gonna talk about them. I'm a little worried for this video. One, because it's late. I don't know why it's this late. Usually I get them done boom boom boom, but whatever. Also, I have a very, very unpopular opinion in this video. The other books, I don't want to call them unpopular just because not a lot of people read these books. Some of them like match what it is on Goodreads, some don't, blah blah blah. One of them I'm way off. Because one of these books I gave 2 stars, Goodreads it has like 4.4, so might be, but also not my bad. So I guess that's my disclaimer for this video. If you like these books, don't take my opinion personally, because I just didn't like them. I've come across plenty of videos where people don't like my favorite books. So, we all have to get used to it, I guess. If you like one of these books, sorry, not sorry, but we're gonna move on. So the way I'm gonna do this video is I'm gonna start from my 2.5 stars and work my way down. So the first book I'm gonna talk about is like number 8 on the list, whereas the last book I'm gonna talk about is number 1, if that makes any fucking sense. I'll just say the rating as we go. So the first book I want to talk about is The Woman in Black by Susan Hill, which I gave 2.5 out of 5 stars. This book is about this dude named Arthur Kipps. He goes to this house because a lady just died there. There is a ghost haunting it, and as you could tell from the title, she is a woman in black. And she just haunts. That's it. As I said, 2.5 out of 5 stars. You could guess that I was not a fan of this novel, which is sad because it's been on my TBR since I was probably 17 and I am 21 now, and I finally read it for Spooktober, which was anything but spooky, unfortunately. But yeah, it was a rough going. But I will say I think the movie tainted my opinion on the novel because I saw the movie first. The movie is what made me want to read this because the movie scared the shit out of me, and as they say, the book is better than the movie, so I expected this novel to be even scarier. But it was anything but scary. Like, there was no interaction with the woman in black at all. Like, he just saw her from a distance and he would hear cries every now and then, but there was just no interaction. He would hear noises and stuff, but it's not like the movie where he saw like shadows, the doors were banging, blah blah blah. None of that. There was that spooky room, but that's all this novel had going for it, really. And it kind of makes me sad because I want a horror novel to be spooky. I was reading some of the reviews on Goodreads, and a lot of people seemed to be just as disappointed as I was, even people who didn't see the movie first. And one thing I wish that was in this novel was that her background was woven into the story rather than just being dumped on us at the end of the novel. You knew nothing about her, and like there was just no hints to why she was doing what she was doing, and then bam, at the ending, here's what happened to her, this is why, blah blah blah. But like, I hate to compare it to the movie, but I kind of have to because the movie did it better in my opinion. The movie put it into the story as it was going. You find out this fact in the beginning, then you find out this fact like halfway through, then you find out another fact, and I just want to say it took me 5 tries to get that sentence out, which is really fucking sad, but that's how this night's gonna go, I guess. And you just don't get that in the novel. It's just dumped on you, and I'm upset. The tense of this novel also didn't work for me because it was in past tense. And I don't know, I think horror novels would work better in present tense because then the readers feel the suspense with the characters. Also, past tense just told me that everything would turn out fine anyway. And that was another mistake. Like, chapter 1 is present day, so the rest of the novel is a whole flashback. So you knew that no matter what happened to Arthur Kipps, like, in the end, everything would be semi-alright. Like, if anything bad, if he was, like, in a dying situation that was life or death, you knew the end result was going to be life since he was an old man at the beginning of the novel. So I wish chapter 1 was omitted and I was in present tense. And that's about it for this novel. So my next novel is The Tale of Rawhide and Bloody Bones by Jack Wolfe. I also gave this novel 2.5 stars, and it takes place in London in 1751, and it follows this dude named Tristan, who's a med student, I believe. Another book I was expecting to be really scary. I found it at my university, at this bookshop, and then something that this bookshop does they'll pick certain books, and then employees will actually tell you why it's their favorite. This was one of the books that was chosen, and the employee called it spooky and a horrifying novel. So I was like, oh, that sounds really cool, I'm going to read it. And then I did, and then it wasn't scary. I was expecting it to be action-packed, and especially because the description in the back, you think it would be action-packed, but it's not. It was very, very slow going, and I'm surprised I didn't DNF it. And I think the reason I didn't DNF it is because I thought it would be spooky near the end, but no, unfortunately. Also, the writing style killed me. This is a modern day novel. Like, this was written 2010 maybe. 2010 the earliest. Jack Wolfe decided to write it the way people in the 1750s wrote their novels. So like thy, thine, weird wording, sentence structure. It's all in this book. And it's fine. Like, he clearly did his research, but it just doesn't work nowadays, if you know what I mean. It was very, very distracting. That, and he did really stick true to the style. The style back then, there was a lot of unnecessary details. And in this novel, there was unneeded detail after unneeded detail after unneeded detail. And I would have to reread things multiple times because it's just, the unneeded stuff was distracting and I couldn't understand what he was trying to get at. And every noun was capitalized, which I guess was a thing back then, but that was distracting too because I would think something was important just to find out it wasn't. If you don't like weird sexual stuff, this book's not for you because there is a lot of weird sexual stuff. Tristan orgasms upon being a sadist, so I don't know if it was done tastefully in this novel. I guess you could say it was, but I didn't really get that feeling. There's also like underage love in this. What I mean by that is that Tristan's in his mid-20s, but he falls in love with a 14-year-old girl. And she falls in love back, but that's weird in modern times. I understand that was popular back then, like that was the thing, so it didn't bother me too much, but like modern day Dom was still very disturbed by that, and especially their sex life. This is probably kink shaming, but like if you read what the stuff they did, I was like, okay, I'm done, I'm not into that. So yeah, if you don't like weird sex stuff, don't read this novel. We are now entering 2-star territory, and this is when I talk about the unpopular opinion. The third book I'm going to be talking about is, unfortunately, Simon vs. the Homo Sapiens Agenda by Becky Albertalli. I know a lot of people love this book. I just didn't, which is upsetting because I went into this book thinking I was going to give it 5 stars because I thought the premise was really cute. And if you don't know what the premise is, it's about this guy who's your average Joe, but he has this big secret in that he's gay. But he's been messaging this dude, and it's like secret messages. They go by different names. He goes by Jacques, his lover boy goes by Blue, and he wants to find out who Blue is. And when I saw like the diverse set of characters, I mean obviously diversity is not what makes a book, but like I was still excited for it. Like there's a lot of diverse characters in it, and it was just a cute premise. So yeah, I was excited for this book, but then when I finished it, I was like, okay, that's 3 stars. But then I sat in it some more and I was like, that's 2.5. But then I sat in it even some more and I'm like, alright, 2 stars. So yeah, sorry guys, but I can explain, kind of, sort of. I just know everyone's gonna be mad at me anyway. My first issue with this novel is the plot. Like, the story itself, again, was cute. I have no problem with it. It was just the way the plot was structured. Something I find common in YA contemporaries is that it follows a path where this character is just your average person, but they have this huge secret, and then everything's fine for the first half of the novel, but literally at the halfway mark, that's when shit decides to hit the fan, and then 3/4 of the way through the novel, it's all resolved, and then that last quarter is just a bunch of useless chapters, and unfortunately, I found that with Simon. I'm going into this novel, and I was like, okay, good start, but just nothing was happening, and I was getting bored, and then again, his secret got out, so shit starts hitting the fan, and then you find out who Blue is, but you still have these 2 extra chapters left, and I was like, I don't need them. They were cute, but I didn't need them, so I wasn't a fan, like, at all. I thought the characterization in this novel was actually really flat. I didn't find anyone to be 3D. I thought all the characters were one-dimensional, including Simon. I didn't see a change in Simon. Sorry. I thought, like, beginning Simon and end Simon were the same. I mean, yes, by the end his secret was out, so I guess that's his big change, and the fact that he was open about it. But I still found him to be the same. Plus, you don't get to know who these characters are, or at least I didn't. Like, I mean, Abby, yeah, she had her funny moments, but still, like, who are you? Same with Nick. I thought Nick was actually kind of pointless. And then the only character I saw any change in was Leah, but she was so unbearable in the first part of this novel. I didn't feel sorry for her until that part where she broke down, which was near the end. And then I kind of felt some sympathy for her. But just before that, I was like, oh my god, why are you friends with this chick? She's annoying. And then I heard that she doesn't get better in Leah and the Offbeat, and that people actually don't like Leah and the Offbeat despite liking this novel. So, I couldn't stand her. She probably took away a lot of this novel. Another thing I didn't like about this novel was the writing style. I thought the writing style was kind of lacking. It was very weak. I could tell this was a first novel. Like, I mean, like, no hate. Because I congratulate Albertalli on her success with this novel. And I understand that a lot of people connect, which I'm happy for you that you guys do have a book to connect with. It was just, I just thought her writing was weak. I got really, really annoyed with the amount of times Simon kept saying, I can't even. And, like, that would be the sentence. That's it. Something would happen. Something exciting would happen. And he would say, I can't even. Like, why? Why can't you even? Can you explain this to me? Why are you excited? I don't get why you're excited. And if I had a drinking game for every time he said that, I would still be drunk. And then another thing I didn't like that he constantly said was, I don't know how to explain it. Why, honestly, if you tell me I don't know how to explain it, that's just a cop-out. That you don't know how to write his feelings. I can't connect with you if you don't explain to me how you're feeling. So you kind of just read as a rock to me, quite honestly. What I didn't understand about that line is that he would say that and then Simon would continue to explain it. So if I were to sit down with Albertalli, I would just tell her, when you edit the book, just omit that line. You don't need it. It was an unnecessary line. And then the one line that got me, I'm going to put this down and read off my phone really quick. This line still bothers me to this day, and I don't really know why, but it was the scene where Simon got an assignment back, and it literally went, when I see the perfect score circled at the top of my paper, I'm a little bit amazed. There's just no frickin' way. Oh wait, I'm right. There is no frickin' way, because this isn't my frickin' test. Way to remember my name, Mr. Wise. Like, I don't want that in published literature. No. No. The thing that took away most from this novel is that I predicted who Blue was right away. As soon as he was introduced in the novel, I knew who he was. And, like, that's part of the book is finding out who he is. So it's like, this mystery is broken for me. I can't. Because another thing I find common in YA contemporaries is that here's this mystery person you're trying to figure out, and they turn out to be that person that was described in great length at the beginning of the novel, but then they drop off the face of the earth and they're never explained again. So, he was introduced in the beginning of the novel, and I was like, wow, I bet you that guy is Blue, and he was. So that really took away. And also, it's never who the character thinks it's going to be. And then Simon had another guess. Who obviously wasn't it, and it was actually annoying me that Simon kept thinking he was it. And then my last qualm about this novel, this is me nitpicking, but guys, I love Harry Potter. He is my favorite literary character. I love those books, my favorite series, but the references in this novel got really fucking annoying. No. Just move on. Simon needs to like something else. So yeah, that's my unpopular opinion, and obviously no hate if you like this book. I know I'm on like this weird spectrum. I'm not on the good spectrum when it comes to this novel. I understand that this novel helped a lot of people, and I'm glad. And I'm really glad there's a book out there for people to relate to. I just didn't think this book was executed well in my opinion. Quite honestly, I didn't see the movie, but just from the trailer, I think I would actually enjoy the movie better than I enjoyed the book, which is really sad, but so it goes. So the next book on this list is Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte, which I gave 2 stars, and it's about a woman who falls in love with this guy named Heathcliff, and the manor they live at is in Wuthering Heights. That's basically it. One of my literary goals is to read a book by each Bronte sister, and I think this is the only one I can read from Emily Bronte. If I remember correctly, this is her only novel. So the reason I didn't like this book was because every single character in this novel is really, really fucking shitty. I didn't like anyone, which is the point of the novel, and I get that. Like, she's exploring human nature and how, like, bad we are. But if everyone in a novel is just shitty and unlikable, how do you expect people to enjoy that? I did it. It was boring, it was slow, which again is the time period. I was just falling asleep. As you can tell, I have a hard time with YA contemporary and classics apparently. But I feel I need to read them because you don't know, there's going to be that one book you do like, you know? I'm not a fan of YA contemporary, but I found one I do like, and it was Ramona Blue. If I didn't read it, I wouldn't have known that. But anyway, back to this novel. Yeah, slow, everyone's bad. That's the only reason I don't like it, so I'm probably just gonna move on. I got this for $2 at Half Price Books though. This is a great copy. The person's name is in it though. 2005, Sadie. So Sadie, wherever you are, still have your book. Next is another 2-star read, and it's One of Us Will Be Dead by Morning by David Moody, and this book angered me, like physically angered me. For those of you who don't know, David Moody wrote the Haters trilogy, and I read reviews and people said you don't need to read the trilogy to read this book because it is labeled as Haters #4 on Goodreads. I got this in the page habit box and I was confused on why they would give you a book that was not the first of a series. People swear that you don't need to read the original trilogy, and I kind of wish I did because I feel like the original trilogy probably had more information. The Haters is just about these people who go under this condition and just want to kill everyone. And in this novel, they're all on an island. They can't go home because they're invaded with haters, so they're just stuck and trying to survive, essentially. And I have a lot of complaints, and I'm going to go into spoiler territory because when it came to this novel, it was like individual actions and individual characters that really pissed me off. So if you don't want spoilers, I guess skip this part. But the first part that I hated about this novel was the name dropping. Everyone was introduced at once, and it was very, very confusing, and I couldn't tell people apart. The name dropping in chapter 1 was pointless because they're just minor characters, and yet like why are you giving them names? I don't care when they're killed off in 2 minutes. And I think the one thing that took away from this novel is that the gender of the murderer in chapter 1 was revealed right away. So in later chapters, these people, like the main characters of the actual novel, find a shipwreck and they find a child, and wow, what do you know? The one child that survived is the gender of the murderer. So do you really expect me to be surprised when you reveal that this child was in fact the murderer? Because I wasn't. I saw it coming from a mile away. There's one scene that I literally almost DNF'd the book at this point because I was just so mad at how much it didn't make sense to me. But there's a scene where our main character, Matt, is trying to take a head count of everyone. Natalie's missing, so he goes to look for her. He's asking people where she's at. Everyone's suspicious, and they're like, oh, so where is she, Matt? Tell us, where is Natalie? And it's like, that's why he's asking you guys, because he doesn't know. And then at this point in the novel, this new guy came in on a boat, and he tells these people, a certain personality doesn't become a hater. It could happen to anyone. And Matt clearly hadn't changed. Pre-hater era Matt was the same as post-era hater Matt, if any of that just makes sense, because it took me 5 tries to say that. His co-workers claim to know him really, really well, and yet suddenly they're attacking him like, oh, you're suspicious, this whole behavior thing's suspicious, even though this guy clearly explained to them, like, no, it really doesn't matter who you are, you could just become a hater, it just happens. And then, I don't know, I just felt bad by how hypocritical everyone was being, and then they just attacked him with no source. They took this random stranger's word as gospel, and then even the stranger, he's not really a stranger, he's a stranger to half the people, but not the people who live on the island. But even he, like, went against his own word, was like, yeah, you actually are suspicious, and it's like, but you just said anyone could be a hater. Like, why is it this quiet dude specifically and not the guy who threatens everyone? And then another thing that pissed me off is that the whole thing could have been avoided if Matt just told him he was taking a head count, but he didn't. So he got kicked out, and it... What? And then there was another scene where this character, Rajesh, I forgot what exactly they were judging, but then Matt's friend Paul was like, dude, don't judge. And then Rajesh was like, or Rajesh, I think it's Rajesh. Rajesh was like, oh, I don't judge people with low standards like you do. And it's like, you were one of the people judging Matt earlier with low standards, and you're saying it to Paul, who was the only one to stick up for Matt. And there's another character like that named Rachel, who was trying to take care of this child who, oh, I wonder if she was the murderer. And so before I actually say that, Matt, Paul, and Natalie had proof that she was the murderer, showed them the proof, and yet none of the characters believed that. That's something that pissed me off. They had obvious facts, and yet none of the characters would believe it. But then finally it was just Rachel who wouldn't, and then everyone was yelling at her, and she's like, I'm not quick to judge like you guys are, or I'm not quick to react, and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, she was one of the first people to accuse Stephen of killing someone, so she's also a hypocrite. So that's one thing I hate. Like, I guess that's the main thing I hate about this novel. These characters were hypocrites. They flipped-flopped. And same thing with the main character. He flip-flopped from being a pussy to being this, you know, this courageous king. And it's like, who are you? Why are you flip-flopping? And you're flip-flopping without any warning. There's nothing gradual. It didn't work. And this story was told in an incredible amount of dialogue. There's no description, and I don't know. You could tell I'm physically angry about this book, which upsets me because I hear the original trilogy was really, really good, and from the reviews I was reading on this novel, it seems to be a popular opinion that this book is not as great as the first three. And yeah, but I will not be reading the first three because this book was enough. I'm done. The next book we're talking about is The Prince by Niccolo Machiavelli. I had to read this for a class called Machiavelli and His World, and this is just principles and how to be a great ruler. So this is nonfiction. It's really hard for me to rate nonfiction, and yeah, I gave it 2 out of 5 stars, but for the pure fact that it was boring as hell because I don't really care. I'm not a huge politics person. I'm into it enough to be educated when it comes to voting, but that's it. I don't want to go into politics. I don't want to study political science. I only took this because I needed one more Italian class to graduate, and this was all they had available that I had not taken yet. So it's funny because I did actually make a lot of connections to nowadays, but other than that, not interested. I like his fiction better because we read some of his fiction. Next is Selected Writings by Machiavelli, which includes some stuff from The Prince and some stuff from the Discourses. And I didn't like it for the same reason I didn't like The Prince. Quite honestly, it's because it's boring. I don't care. I don't want to repeat myself, so I'm just going to leave it at that. And then the last book I'm going to talk about is my only 1-star book of 2018, and that is Lucifer's Son by Sergei Mabrodi. And this just explores human nature, and it's Lucifer telling his son about how shitty we are. And I had to DNF this book. I really DNF, but I had to DNF at 30% because I just couldn't handle it anymore. So I do want to preface this review-ish thing by saying that I think the reason I couldn't stand it was because the translation was horrendous. This novel was originally published in Russian, and he's compared to like Stephen King and a lot of other horror novelists. From what I've read, I don't really agree with those reviews, but it must be because of how bad the translation is. I have my notes here because there were a lot of complaints. And the first thing I want to talk about is that scenes are described by just repeating words. Blood, 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 blood. A lot of blood. Long, long ago. Very long ago. Very, 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 very long ago. He had to. He had to, he had to, he had to. And you could easily fix that by telling me how much blood there was, like not centimeters, but like milliliters of blood? Kiloliters? Is that a word? I don't speak metric in America. What year was it? What do you mean how long ago? Like 5 years ago, 10 years ago? Simple stuff like that, you know? There was also a lot of sexism in this novel. Usually sexism doesn't bother me too much, which I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, but usually I can push it aside. This one I really couldn't. There are a lot of instances where men were just like, oh, I'm better simply because I have a penis. And then, one guy was like, obviously my wife is unhappy because she doesn't have children, when she seemed fine to me, but whatever. Women are accused of not being able to resist rough sex, which is kind of weird to me. Because I know a lot of women who don't like it, but alas, whatever, I guess men are the masters. And there was actually one short story where a man was raping a woman in his dreams, and he would actually get mad at the woman for not recognizing him in real life, and it was weird. Like, he called her, he would spend a whole paragraph just calling her a fucking bitch and how he was gonna kill her. And then he was mad because Lucifer wanted to turn that around on him, and like, really? How deplorable can you be? Which I know is the point of the novel, but still, it was anger-inducing. And then another thing was just long, long paragraphs, just repeating things. Like I said, this one guy spent just a page saying, she's a fucking bitch for not doing this, fucking bitch, why won't you look at me, fucking bitch, I'm gonna hit you. And that was just the whole paragraph, and it got old really fast. I skipped paragraphs, and I still knew what was going on. And then a lot of things ended in questions, asking me questions rather than just describing it to me. Why are you letting the reader do this? I have a lot of like editing examples too, because the editing was terrible and it was distracting. Words were spelled wrong. And I have in here that 40, like the word 40 was spelled F, number 4, number 0, capital O-R-T-Y. And then they would always forget end parentheses in multiple places, and like end quotation marks would be missing. Punctuation was missing. Yeah, it might just be on the Kindle version, which I was reading it from, but like it was a no-go. Very, very distracting for me. The all-around style was hard to follow as well. I couldn't tell what was personal thought, what was narration. There was no distinction, like nothing was italicized or anything. Like both speech and thought were in punctuation marks, which just didn't make sense to me, because how are you supposed to distinguish the two? Because I would get confused and think the thoughts were being said out loud or vice versa. And it just wasn't working out. Was not a fan of that at all. Also, some of the dialogue would keep going, so this refers back to like punctuation missing and not missing. Like the dialogue would end, it would be quote, dialogue, 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 end quote, more dialogue, end quote, and it's like, why? How did the editor screw that up? This happened multiple times. It wasn't just the one time. One time I can forgive, flubs happen, but like it was multiple times. Who edited this book? And yeah, that's about it for this book. I couldn't handle the characters. I couldn't handle whoever translated this. It was rough, and I read some reviews, and I was not the only one who thought this. A lot of people said it was rough. I think a lot of people like from Russia were saying that the translation was horrendous. I wish I could read this book in Russian, but I only know English and Italian, so that's impossible. My one DNF in like 5 years. And that's all I have for this video. It was kind of rushed near the end there because my camera is running out of memory. I really need to get a new memory card because all my New Zealand stuff is on this camera, but I don't want to delete that, obviously. So I'm going to leave it at that. Yeah, unpopular opinion in this one, and if it was your favorite book, I'm sorry, not sorry. I just didn't like it. Let me know what your worst books are, because everyone loves these videos. These videos always get the most views, and people can be really salty on them, and I'm here for the tea. I'm here for it. Yeah, I can hear my camera dying, and it's on its last breath right now. So I'm gonna go now. Ciao, tutti.